but Miss Amanda did ask me to say a few things about the house. I'm sure most of you are already familiar with some of the stories behind the McDowell House, that it is associated with the McDowell family for whom McDowell County is named, and that the first McDowell here was a man named John McDowell, who was an early immigrant to this region and settled here practically when there were still Native Americans in the area. He was quite a character. He was a well-known hunter and was so good at it that they nicknamed him Hunting John McDowell. He had several children. His only son was Joseph, who was captain of the local militia during the American Revolution and who took part in the Over Mountain Victory March and the Battle of Kings Mountain Victory. The plantation here was called Pleasant Gardens by Hunting John McDowell, and of course that's what gave the name to this community. So the McDowell County name and the Pleasant Gardens name both go way, way back. I wanted basically to tell you, rather than the ancient history, which I'm sure you've all read about, more about what we are going to do with the house. Several years ago, the county and the city joined forces to try and save the house. And a committee was formed, of which I'm a member, and Steve's a member, and Ashley, and there may be others here if I haven't seen you, excuse me. But we've been working hard for a long time to try and work through all the nuances and the red tape that it takes to get to the point where we can actually begin restoration. And we're finally getting there. We've had archaeological studies done, we've had historic structure surveys done. We've been fortunate to be helped financially and supported by the National Park Service. You may remember several years ago we had a big push to get the National Park Service interested in assuming responsibility for the house and making McDowell County the headquarters for the Over Mountain Victory Trail Association. And we got some wonderful community support, but unfortunately they ended up choosing Burke County instead. But they have never lost interest in this house, and they have continued to fund basically all of our projects. So we feel that there is still a big interest on their part in the house and in preserving it, and they have promised us that continued support. One of the ladies was asking me about the archaeological survey and what was found on the grounds. I wish I had brought some of that with me. One of the things that they found was, of course, some arrowheads and various pieces of pottery and ceramics from different eras, because the house was occupied throughout so many different eras. They found some dating all the way back to the 1700s and some from the early 1900s. So, and they found a lady's brooch and an ornament from a harness from a horse. So, you know, it's been a very interesting road that we've taken to get to this point. But we are continuing on. We put some temporary siding on where the additions were removed to get the house back down to the original structure. And in order to protect the house, that's why you see the siding on both sides, but that will one day be gone. Our next move will be in the direction of actual restoration. So we're finally getting there. We feel that even though the gentleman who was the architectural historian who did the historic structure survey tells us that the house is not as old as was originally thought, it's still associated with this prominent family that played such a big role in the formation of the United States. And the property that the house sits on is perhaps even more historic than any structure on it anyway. So when you couple this with the wonderful greenway in the back and the Catawba River, which was, after all, the main reason that anyone including Native Americans wanting to live here in the first place, you just have a great complex. So we're looking forward to moving on and getting into the restoration, and hopefully at some point the house will be an interpretive center for the river, the Native American history, the McDowell family history, the American Revolutionary history. Hopefully we'll have an office here for the Trails Association and for maybe the Over Mountain Victory Trail folks as well.
And we'll let you talk a little bit about what it is that you guys do and the importance and the role you play here in our community. Ms. Jill Lucas.
First of all, I want to thank you on behalf of the Quilt Trail for coming tonight and sharing part of your evening with us. We are a program under the McDowell Arts Council, and we're glad to have several of the MACA board members here tonight. Since 2009, we've installed an average of about 33 blocks a year. We just recently installed our 200th block, and now we've installed 2 more. Well, 187, 13 on the Rural Heritage Trail that we do as a grant. Makes a total of 200, and now we have 2 more for 202, and there are 2 more being ready to go up, painted to go up. So we think that's very exciting. We have blocks from Vermont to Florida, from the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina to Ohio. We have a block in Germany, and we have one over the mantle in the governor's mansion. Yes. And all that's thanks to the chamber. And so without the support of the good citizens of McDowell County, none of this would have been possible if they weren't supporting us. We hope that this project has helped us to rediscover our past, to help tourism, encourage tourism, and help the local economy. Since 2010, which doesn't sound a lot like a lot of money to these big organizations, but we put about just building the blocks, just in the construction. We've put about $38,000 back into the local economy building them. And there's no way really to track the tourist dollars that the trail generates, but we've been told it's one of the main things that people ask about when they come into town. We have a committee of 9 who work for the good of the trail with no expectations except for reward, except the sense of accomplishment and a sense of community. We've had over 40 volunteers that have helped us construct and paint, install, and make crafts and write stories, and goes on and on. And since 2010, we've accumulated about 18,000, I said it wrong at the 200th block, volunteer hours that we put in. And I'm sure that's shy, because I'm sure Mike Lucas would never tell you how many he's spent. I have encouraged him several times just to move his bed over here and be done with it. So these hours help MACA when they start applying for grants, when you can show volunteer hours. 25% of our income goes back into MACA's general operating fund, which helps support the arts. And the rest goes to promote the trail. I think, and this isn't a large amount, but we try to also promote MACA. But I think since 2011, we've put about $10,000 back into MACA's operating fund. No one, people don't believe this, no one that works for the Quilt Trail Committee receives a salary. It's all strictly volunteer. We have news story books. Janet just put them together last night and this morning, and they are very nice. So all the blocks' stories are covered. Tourists can come in and buy, or locals can buy the storybooks and have the history of McDowell County, some fascinating stories. And this time we were able to put a little color in them, so they look really nice. And they were a lot of work. Janet put in a lot of work on the stories. So over 2,000 families or businesses have allowed us to put blocks on their structures. And I see a lot of people here tonight that have blocks, and we appreciate that very much. Even when the economy was low, people kept putting up quilt blocks, which we found amazing. course, without the county commissioners and the city council and the chamber and the use of this building, we wouldn't be going now. They've allowed us to operate under their support and their guidance, and that's been critical to us. And the McDowell newspaper publishes our stories, and it seems like every time a story goes in, we get another phone call. And that's huge to our existence. We are honored and most appreciative to use the McDowell House. We try to be very good stewards of it. We appreciate Ann coming tonight and taking time to talk. But please make yourself at home. Go around, ask any questions. If you have any questions about the Quilt Trail, we appreciate your buying a raffle ticket. I know a lot of you already have. That's of our heritage blocks that we do through our grant with funds we raise by selling the little interior blocks. The money that we get for the interior blocks goes into the heritage account so that we can put up some blocks on the historic structures, most of them being around 100 years old rural structures in the county. And Linda Smith, one of our committee members, made the quilt and is hand quilting it. And I told her she was crazy for hand quilting it, but she's done a beautiful job. And Steve, I'll turn it back over to you, but the chamber is instrumental to us. Y'all are such good support. We appreciate you so much.
Well, we